Okay, hello and welcome back everybody to the build series. In this episode we will be dealing with this residential area that we have been working on a few episodes ago. I've just been improving the area and putting down some services. So the first thing I did, I put down just a police station quickly, and now we'll be also be doing a hospital service to deal with all the sick people so they don't have to go all the way to the big hospital complex that we did a few episodes ago. This one's a little bit smaller. I'm immediately going to break the promise that I made in that episode where I said I wasn't going to be putting in big parking lots. Because as you can see, we put in a big parking lot here. It just seemed to make sense, have a little bit more variety. It's kind of fun to make these parking lots. So I decided to do a more traditional one, even though it maybe isn't as quite a good solution as before, but add some variety to the landscape there. So put down some greenery in between. Always got to make the areas look nice. Make sure I put down my the EV parking and the disabled parking. And I've also got a cobblestone road that runs right up to the front of the hospital in case people need to, have an emergency drop off. They can just drive up and park there and go straight in. Here I've just got putting in a pharmacy, putting in another clinic of some kind, I don't know, some specialist or private health, I don't know, it's whatever you want it to be, and putting in some death care. I've got this classical crematorium, so the hearses don't have to travel so far to get to serve this area, because a lot of the buildings I saw had the dead person waiting for pickup icon, so had to make sure they had enough capacity around this area. Little garden out front, make sure that people can go chill, to have a nice little break, have a smoke or whatever. Actually, probably don't do that, it's hospital. Or just make the area a little bit nicer with some little benches there. I forgot to record it there, but I just made a little car park for the police station area as well, which is, but there's not much more to that. It's a little bit smaller than the hospital one, don't have too much. So here, now we're going to be improving the services for these big residential buildings. This is pretty much just imagining what services a building will need, what people like to go to a lot, and try to make as much stuff as possible within walking distance. This is just the aquatic center. I think that's actually just a vanilla asset even, I believe. But it didn't really fit there, and I thought it made more sense to be over in this corner. So that's where the more sporting area is. But yeah, with the residential area, it's about imagining if you were in this area, what is it that you would need to access and to try and make it as easy as possible so you don't have to take a car and you don't even have to take transit, hopefully. So I've got a gym, people like gyms, got a pool, I guess more of a leisure thing or for the kids, and of course now we need to put in some shops so people can get what they need, the essentials on short notice. I was considering here putting in I think I'll find some big shopping centres here, which wouldn't be too bad, but these ones are quite car park heavy, which for an area where I was specifically looking for something that's walkable, that you don't need a car, it made sense to not go for that one, but maybe I'll try and fit in that one somewhere. So here I'm putting in a Whole Foods. That seems like something that a person who's living near these nice big apartment buildings would want to shop at. And you'll see here I put down a Trader Joe's. These are very American companies. You kind of have to suspend your disbelief considering that we're not in America and this isn't really an American style. If anything, it's more Western than probably a lot of Asian places, but I do imagine this is more in like the an Eastern country, not a Western country. Even though this does have a lot of similarities to some US and Canadian cities as well as like Australia. But yeah, so you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit with the Trader Joe's and Whole Foods there. You understand what kind of place it is. It just makes sense. So here I'm just putting down some more sporting areas. There's I think it was like another pool and the tennis club here. And next one, I've decided to put down a parking. This would be like the parking for a couple of the apartment buildings. the apartment buildings are all the same, so I'm imagining they'll be like the same developer would have made all those 4 buildings at once. So this car park will probably be shared between them. It probably wouldn't service everyone. Not that we want everyone to have their own car park. That sort of incentivizes people to have cars, but it would at least be an option where people could possibly purchase a car park for when they live here. So doing a little park here in between these areas, just to make the area look a bit more nicer. This is a more upscale area. You'd want to have little parks like this to enjoy, to go to, and just make the area look a little bit nicer. I'm sure that's what the residents would want, and just having these parks on the ground level in between the big buildings just helps break it up and make it seem like a more livable space instead of having walls all around like you would in like a more like in a dense middle of the city, which isn't exactly what we want for this residential area. This park is more of a decoration park in that this one doesn't have a lot of open grass area. So it's not a place you'd want to walk a dog around or kick a ball. You could walk around here and have a nice time, a place you want to visit, a place you'd be glad to walk through, and a place you'd be glad to have near your house. You could have a picnic there or a barbecue with your family in one of the pagodas, gazebos there, but it's not necessarily a big open grass area, so we'll have to maybe try and find a place for people to have that kind of service as well. And a few little more details around the place just to make everything look a little bit more nice and lived in. You can always find a little bit more extra details where you want to. This is a little flower shop, a little florist where you can get some last minute flowers if you want, some little maybe gift bags or something. Come and just what they would kind of sell there. Your last minute touches to this park, make it a just really nice looking place to be. So here I want to put some more residential on this side of the road as well. I wasn't sure how tall I wanted to go, but I found these 2 buildings, and I love much like on the other side where it has the 4 matching buildings. I love having a matching set, so having these 2 together, just couldn't resist. Had to have these 2 big high rises as well, which it's not quite. The area will be a little bit different on one side of the road to the other, of course. It won't just be a mirror of each other, but I decided I really want to have these big high rises as well. And that is kind of the idea between that was the idea for the city as well, to have a very dense, high-rise, rich city. So seeing as this is the middle of the main residential area, made sense to have these here. Another little plaza in between, perfect little placement to again have this nice little flat area in between. Nice little plaza, place you could, you go down to the benches and have some food. You could sit on the grass steps, just walk around the park area. Or else it's just a nice place to walk by when you're leaving your house. I thought the bottom of this building here looked a little bit bland, so I wanted to get another entrance to sort of fit in here, make it look give it a little bit more depth, and then find some more little shops here. Anyway, like a little residential building like this. Not really big residential building like this, that you can fit some commercial, some mixed use down the bottom floor where it's not going to be used as commercial or residential rather, is great. So that's why you see me phasing buildings into other buildings a lot. So you have those little shops down the bottom and all the people living on top, and I think it looks really good. I really like the look of these flags, so I decided to put them along the boulevard here, and it turned out really well. I think they look really cool. He was just banning traffic along the outer lanes except for the very ends where the cars could then use as a turning lane, but we'll deal a bit more with the roads later in the episode. So yeah, I wanted some of those more not high rise but not single family homes either. These sort of middle, dense but not too high housing areas, these little like housing blocks to get a lot of people in, but not needing a huge skyscraper, a huge development to do. Sort of trying to find a few different buildings that are kind of a similar style, that fit together but aren't identical either. Maybe it makes more sense for them to be more identical. After all, normally an area like this, I imagine, would all be redeveloped at once, maybe by like the same developer or something. So maybe they would have a bit more consistency than I've got, but I think it works out well in the end. So again, going down to the ground level to take a look and make sure that it's the way I like it. I really like pushing all these buildings together to make a nice, dense feel. I think that always, to me, makes me feel like the area is more detailed, more lived in, than if things are more far apart like they are in the vanilla game. Same with putting down the road, the ground textures. Just anywhere that I can replace the default concrete with something a bit nicer, some pavers, I think it makes it look a lot more realistic to me, so that's why I always am putting down different kinds of grounds there. And some little ivy to make those bare walls look a little bit more realistic, I think. Or just a bit more interesting, not necessarily realistic, probably the opposite of realistic, but I just like the look of them there. Very like where I can just find these small little spaces and just slip in these tiny little blocks to make them a bit of a more lived in area. Let's find a little skate park and I'd slip in between, and I really like that little area. That maybe, some of these will be a little bit more low income than others, as they can't all be super mega expensive, but you can tell like some of them will be a bit more cramped together, and some of them will be a bit more weathered, and some of them will be a lot more nicer, like that one with the big one with the green roofs there. You can tell them it's like a little bit more nicer. This is what I'm talking about before, with that more usable space, where this park is, I've got it ringed by trees, makes it look a lot nicer, and I've got these paths going through it, but there's a lot of open grass there, so that you can run along it, you can throw the ball along, and your dog can go fetch it, you can kick a ball around. There's more reusable, just open green space, not just full of bushes like a lot of the parks that I've been making recently. A bit more parking there, that's pretty like a paid parking, just like to offer a paid service. If people want to pay a premium to park there, they can if it's like short term. Just put a couple of tram lines which looped around the two sides of this residential area, and that will just meet in the middle as well, so people can use that to go from the outside of the residential area to transfer into the middle, where they could then take another tram or the metro into other parts of the city. Again, just making any areas where it's tram only green. And doing some more of these road markings, because I had a lot of roads coming off this road. It gave a lot of empty space, so I sort of have to manually put in the line markings, as well as put in the straps here to mark off where people can and cannot park, which maybe isn't necessary, but I like the look, so putting these in. Decided to have a look at these decals, which I hadn't really ever looked at in the game before. This is my first time trying them out, so I do go a little bit crazy with them actually. I really like the look of this, like especially this little alley here. This is a place where people would drive along to park their cars near their apartments, so it sort of made sense that the roads would get a bit more wear there. So I wanted to put down cracks and patches and stuff like that in areas where I don't think they would be kept quite as nicely, in these little back alleys. And I thought it would really enhance the look of these areas. I try to not go crazy too much in future to put this everywhere. I feel like I could end up putting way too much of this down, but I will refrain from doing that hopefully. I sort of try to imagine when I'm doing the B-roll footage at the end of each episode, where I show off what I've been building, I'm trying to imagine the areas in particular that I would focus on, that I really liked what I did, where I can imagine these cute little scenes which I would want to showcase to you guys at the end of the episodes. Those are the areas where I'm going to be putting down these decals and that to add a bit more life and realism to it, just so at the end they really look like lived in places, and hopefully you guys can appreciate the extra detail. Those buildings that you can see up the top of the screen right now, those are part of the next episode. That'll be was doing these two at the same time, this episode and the next episode. So you'll kind of see a bit of overlap where you'll see those ones in this episode, and in the next episode you'll see some of these things in here which I haven't built at the time. So there's just a bit of a crossover while I'm doing multiple things at once. It's like these little alleys which I put in between buildings. That's always what I really like to make, and I think it looks, to me, makes an area look quite realistic when they have all these like very detailed and compact little buildings together. These little alleys going through them, that always makes it look more realistic than the more spaced apart buildings from the vanilla. Benches outside of this area. I thought this building here looked a little bit more bougie, so put a little bit more effort into putting down some trees and bushes and that to make it look a little bit more livable and look really nice and colourful. Get into putting down more and more little decals, make it look a little bit more realistic. That was a little a crane path, but I thought it looked a bit like a gutter for like water runoff, so I put it between the buildings, and I think that came off looking quite good. Little flowers outside the apartment building that you'll see often in a lot of new developments, and these little bike path markings to show that they're like dedicated bike throughways, even though people just bike on them anyway, so it doesn't really make much sense. But whatever, I thought having little markings there made it look a little bit extra realistic. Let's put these little foliage markings where the plants were. I found this more simple, more open looking soccer field, or football field if you prefer, or football pitch, whatever the word is. I found this one and I quite like the look of it, so I put this one in, and I got rid of the other one that I had and put in one that looked a bit bigger. So now there's like one which is maybe for more professional games, or one that's like booked out for schools, and one that's maybe a bit more loose and open for whoever wants to go in there. Now it's going to finish off this episode with a little bit of road work, just making sure all the giveaway signs are done properly, trying to figure out a way to make this little curved intersection look okay. I was kind of thinking of making the tram lanes a bit green, but that kind of looked weird, cutting across the rest of the intersection. Just trying to make this look kind of okay, not too messy. Maybe I'll have to come back and remove these chevrons and change it back to the stripes that kind of don't work very well here. But apart from that, I wasn't really sure how to make this area look nice, so just kind of tried to continue the markings around. I spent ages here, which I haven't included in this video, trying to set up the timed traffic lights to make it, flow efficiently. It was a bit of a struggle. I found it hard to make it all work properly, mainly because you can't set separate phases of the traffic light for cars and trams, so you can't set a segment, as far as I can tell. If I'm wrong, please correct me, because I'm really trying to find a way. But there's no way to set a red for cars but let the trams go or anything like that. So it was hard to make a way for to make trams and cars turn right without letting them intersect with cars. So I was having all these problems with trams going when they shouldn't, and it was just messing up the whole system. So enough to maybe spend some more time trying to rework these roads to figure out what to do, figure out if I want cars in the left-hand lane with the trams to turn left, or if they should just turn from the center lane. It's a whole thing. I really wasn't able to come up with the perfect solution, so maybe I have to come back to that. Last thing we're going to do is just do some intersection marking tools. I was not really sure how best to do this because of the tram lines that are dissecting this road. It's obviously already quite a messy looking intersection. So I was trying to find a way to put in lines that didn't look too messy, but I don't really succeed, and it does end up looking pretty messy in the end. So you see me try a few different things to try and make it look nice, but in the end I kind of have to concede that I can't put too many lines in like I was doing here. And in the end I kind of just have to end up putting the bike lanes in. Maybe I could put in a couple of turning markers for the right hand turns, but apart from that, best to leave it a bit more simple and make it not too messy. And with that, and then with a couple of extra cleanup things at the end of the episode, that'll be it for this episode. Hope you have enjoyed the process, and hope you look at the B-roll footage I have at the end of each episode. That's like the best bit, where you can see all the cool shots of the progress I've made in this episode. But next episode we'll be dealing with the more entertainment district up in the corner that you saw earlier, and I'm really happy with the stuff that I make there, so hopefully you tune into the next episode.